Pish Posh Reselling. It has been a while since we have done a What Sold together. Last week I was a bit under the weather. And then when I was feeling better, I was a little distracted by some homeschooling activities and then still wasn't feeling that great. And so, anyway, that's my story. We have got a lot of solds to share with you today. So, we should probably get right on that. So let me go ahead and talk about. So we're talking about the first 2 weeks of January. So that kind of worked out kind of interesting. We're starting our new year, and as you can see, that first week was a little bit quieter. The week before, the last week of December, wasn't too bad. It did slow down a little bit that first week of January, which was fine. We sold 29 items and had a total of 955 sales. I've said before, these numbers are just my rough numbers to just kind of help me keep an eye on how my week is going and make me. Sometimes I feel like the week wasn't that great, and then I kind of compile the numbers and I can compare them to other weeks, and I realize, oh, it really wasn't that bad. So the second week of January was actually much better. So this past week was actually pretty good, which to me is interesting because I felt like with not feeling well, with having the homeschool stuff going on, my husband was working outside the house a few days, and I don't know, we just had a lot going on, but we listed consistently. Either him or I would do a little bit in the evenings, or we both were, or whatever. So we were sending out offers. Some things maybe we would have held out for a higher price, but just went ahead and took reasonable offers just to have that cash flow going. So that second week we sold 44 items and our total was 1,542. Which is interesting because that was about the same as what we made the last week of December, but we sold more items that week. So we had a higher price per item this past week. So we had a few more items that actually sold at higher prices. So let's go ahead and go into what the solds were. Let's go ahead and I thought I would do something different this week, and we're going to end with eBay. We'll start with some of the other platforms that I sell on, such as Ruby Lane. And I just decided to switch that up just to make things interesting for myself, I guess. So anyway, this was a nice little coffee mug sale that I had on Ruby Lane at the beginning of the year. And so as you can see, it sold for $12. The brand is Wachtersbach. And you can see on the bottom, oh, I hope it loads quick. Okay, so this one said West Germany, which definitely made this a vintage mug. It wasn't super rare, which is what will affect the prices, but I paid 99 cents for it and it sold for $12. Another Ruby Lane sale was kind of interesting. So one of the days, I'll try to go through this whole thing fairly quickly because like I said, we have a lot, but I do like to share some of the little stories too. So this was just something, I bought this a long time ago. It was in my profit pile. I actually have 3 of them. Here, let me go up so you can see what it is. It's retractable. It's one of those, it's a jewelry organizer, but it's like a clear lucite, and you hang it on the wall and you can hang your necklaces and stuff off of it. So anyway, I had gotten this back when we lived in Washington several years ago. They were in the boxes and they needed the stickers removed, and I don't know, they just got thrown into a bin and I never listed them. And so I always wanted to, I just never got to them. And so one of the days we couldn't go thrifting or something, my husband and I were like, you know what, there's so much stuff out in the garage that we haven't looked at in a while, and he's likes helping me catch up on backlog. And so he was kind of tired of clothing, and so we're like, let's look at hard goods and look at clothing. And so we pulled out a bunch of stuff from our profit pile, I prefer to call it, not death pile. And this was in there. And so one day I just was like, just grab one, take the sticker off. You can see the sticker had been on there so long. It did not come off easily like it usually does when they're fresh. So no biggie. But sold for $22 like overnight. So I still have one more I'm going to list. The third one I might keep. So now I was thinking they were some kind of jewelry box, but I just saw jewelry organizer and then I opened it up and I was like, oh, it's one of these. And so maybe I might keep one for my own necklaces. We'll see. Anyway, that sold pretty quickly. Okay, so flatware. You've been hearing me talk a lot about flatware on my channel. And thank you so much for anybody who's been watching that. I hope it's helpful to you. I will link it up above here, or you just go to my channel. It should be the last few videos were about flatware, about the brands to pick up and sell, and also how to figure out what the pattern is. Anyway, so I am putting most of my flatware either on eBay or my Etsy shop, but I had played around with putting some of it on Ruby Lane. And so these salad forks sold. So I think Ruby Lane would be a good place to put flatware. I have another friend who sells on Ruby Lane who sells a bunch of stainless flatware on there now because she started adding quite a bit to her shop. So that might be a road I go down in the future, but I'm just kind of trying to play around with Etsy and just having all my flatware kind of in one spot, and we'll see how that goes. But anyway, this was a nice sale, $20 for these 6 salad forks by Oneida. And they were marked Oneida USA, which is something I had talked about in the other videos. This was a very nice sale. It sold for $50. I had it listed for $60. Someone messaged and asked if I would take $50, and it had been listed for a little while, so I was totally fine with that. It's this cute little evening bag, Whiting and Davis. It has their kind of traditional or class signature mesh outside, but it had this nice little filigree section with the rhinestones, which was kind of unusual, and pretty clean inside. So $50, and that is on its way to Australia. Next one, this cracks me up. I used to sell a ton of these on Etsy. They're Dymo organizers, label makers. If you like older than, I don't know, 30, maybe if younger, you know them too. But anyway, these were how we labeled everything back in the day. And I have sold a bunch of them, some little small plastic ones. It's always good. Like this one came with a couple different wheels that can change the font. Like that makes it into cursive, which is actually a really good deal. It's a nice bonus thing to have on there. And then there's tape in the machine, and then I had some extra tape. So I'll pick up the tape. Sorry, I've got my leftoverness from my cold, but anyway. I pick up the tape whenever I see it, and I usually just pick up the stuff that says Dymo. And, I have some extra tape rolls laying around so that I can add some extra tape to these when I find them. Now, there are some Dymos that actually sell. This sold for $25. I have sold some other Dymo for $50 or higher, especially if it has the case. And there's a certain kind that's not plastic, it's metal, and like a chrome colored metal, and those actually sell pretty well. They're pretty heavy duty, and they are, maybe I can pop up a sample, because I have not researched solds on those lately, so I don't want to give you bad information. So when I edit, I'll go ahead and I'll try to find an example of what I'm talking about. And you can see what the prices are. Who knows? Prices may even have gone up on those. I'm not sure. But that just kind of tickled me to sell one of these on Ruby Lane. So I do have a few more in my profit pile. And so I'll get those out and I'll try to get those listed. And I try to show, that it works. I had done a little video of it working, and I couldn't put the video on Ruby Lane, but I did put it on social media a little bit. And then my last one for the 2 weeks on Ruby Lane was this cute little baby boy bib. This is one of my oldest listings on there, actually, and I picked this up at a yard sale for like 25 cents. But it was just a made in Switzerland. It was signed, or it had a tag, I should say. So it wasn't just a little homemade one. But it was cute, and it sold for $10. So 25 cents into $10 is fine with me. Easy to list, easy to ship. So Ruby Lane, if you don't know what Ruby Lane is, it's a marketplace for vintage and antiques and collectibles. I have done a video on Ruby Lane and why I prefer it now as my main vintage marketplace. So I will link that video up above right now as well. And I really like it. I have not been able to put the time into it that I would like. I sometimes get myself spread too thin because I like so many different niches and categories and things like that. And but I am just going to keep working at it, and I think it'll just grow and grow. So speaking of Etsy, this is the flatware shop. I did have a couple, I think I had like one pattern sale. I'm not going to show it to you today. What I had to do is in Ruby Lane, Etsy, Depop, Poshmark, up to Depop, I'm showing you all the sales on those platforms, but then Poshmark and eBay, where I had the most sales, there's just not enough time to show you everything. So I mostly stuck to like $25 and higher. There's some that are a little lower that I just wanted to show to tell you a story or something like that. But anyway, I had gotten these bags of flatware back in the fall on our road trip. They were just in the baggies hanging on the wall. And Blue Willow is a really popular pattern in dinnerware and dishes and things like that. And I was actually kind of surprised because these are not very expensively made or anything like that. The pattern's only on the one side. There is another, I saw when I was researching, there is some more Blue Willow flatware that's plastic handled, but it's melamine. It's like a heavier duty plastic, and they're just a little bit nicer. And those would also actually sell pretty well. But so I just decided to lot all these up, and this was part of that flatware challenge. So it was one of the first listings I did at the beginning of the month, and it sold within a few days for $45 for the whole lot. And I probably paid about $6 for the pieces that I found. And it shipped in a padded flat rate. We added some extra cardboard to protect it because they were plastic. But you can fit quite a bit of flatware into a padded flat rate. Okay, I had a few more sales. These had been listed before the month, before the challenge. But these are round bowl soup spoons as opposed to oval soup spoons. They're also sometimes called gumbo or bouillon soup spoons. But just a nice popular pattern by Oneida called Nordic Crown. And so these 5 spoons sold for $24. Also sold a gravy ladle, and it was just marked stainless Japan. No problem there because it had a nice mid-century look to it. It would fit in with a lot of the more popular mid-century flatware patterns that people have names for, but this is just kind of a no-name stainless Japan. But had a nice mid-century look, so that sold for $14. And that doesn't need to be there. Okay, so we're moving on to Depop. Actually had a few sales the past couple of weeks on Depop. One was this vest. I love the fact that the 90s are popular. It just kind of cracks me up. But anyway, it's this 90s vest. The brand was called Concrete Mix, which doesn't even really mean anything. But it was just a nice colorful on the front pattern. You can see the brand there. So 80s, 90s, made in Hong Kong, and just had a real attractive pattern and colorway on it. And so that sold for $30. What else? Okay, so I just did what I did last week. Grr. Okay, I'll try to find it afterwards. Hold on. So anyway, moving on, I sold this pair of Converse sneakers for $38. They were a little bit different because they were platform. So the sole is a little bit higher, it's just a little bit lifted. And those sold for $38 straight out. And then another sale, again with the 90s look, was this cardigan. We used Grandpa Core, 90s cardigan. You could use Dad Core, just kind of any of that kind of frumpy older guy look. A lot of people like wearing that right now. And again, brand was not that important. Method, made in Korea. So probably 80s, 90s, most likely 90s. And let me try to find the one that I closed out. So here's my shop on Depop. And I can get all my solds to like go down to the bottom. I just haven't done it yet. But I had moved this one down. So this was it. This I picked up at a yard sale, and I thought it was awesome. I only paid $5 for it. It sold... Okay, so this says $64.99, but that is not true. I think I took an offer for $30 because it had been listed for so long. I think I had it on sale, and then someone else like made another offer on top of it. But it's just basically like a blanket that someone turned into a poncho type jacket thing. Probably just a tourist piece, somebody picked up on their travels to the Southwest. But I had it on all sorts of different platforms, and it got attention, but nobody was really digging it. So when I got the $30 offer, I was like, sure thing, I'll take that. Okay, moving on to Poshmark. So last time we did a What Sold, we were talking about Rocky's jeans and the Rocky Mountain, whatever the brand is actually called, Rocky Mountain something company or whatever. And they're Western, and they're very high-waisted, which is popular. They also, I think these, did I use bareback? Yeah, so one of the terms you can use is bareback because the back has no pockets. Anyway, these were new with tags. I don't know necessarily if they were vintage or not. I don't really know the state of the company at the moment. I didn't look that up, but these sold for $55. And so, okay, so Rockies, like I said last time, we had like 3 or 4 pairs of Rockies, and we got them all listed, and then they all sold within like a week or two. And so we were, we're always kind of compiling our mental list as we consistently get results with a brand. So we're telling each other, okay, this brand jean is probably worth picking up. This brand, maybe not so much. And so my husband was all like, Rockies, man, those are the way to go. And they've sold like in the $40, $35, $40, $50 range. And so he's like, go one day when I was like, I don't know if I want to go out. And he's just like, go to the thrift store, go to the thrift store. He's like, go find some Rockies jeans. And I was like, all right, you're never going to be able to find what you're looking for. But anyway, I found 3 pairs of Rocky jeans that day, and he couldn't believe it. So, I mean, it does help that I live in Montana. But I found 3 more vintage pairs, and yeah, we've got those listed, and I found a couple Wranglers in a similar style, and we just sold one of those today for not as much. Wrangler doesn't go as high. But yeah, we've got the other Rockies listed, but haven't had any action on them yet. Anyway, let's keep going. Okay, so I did post a shoe haul on the channel a few weeks back, and this was one of the pairs of shoes in that haul. These actually could have sold for much, much more, but as you see, I had to do them as is. So there's this little spot right here. You can see where the lining has a little bit of a hole. And that is where, guess what, the price tag was from Goodwill. Now, of course, I didn't put, when I lifted the price tag, I thought I had done that. But it wasn't on the back of the price tag. There was nothing there. So that was just Goodwill hiding damage like they love to do. So these are Charlotte Olympia. These kitty flats were stinking cute. They were okay shape. It was just that lining inside is leather, and it was super thin and like soft. And so even inside at the toes, there was some damage to the lining in there just from the person's foot. So I just took pictures, disclosed all that, and still they sold for $49. Duluth Trading Company, Flex Fire Hose or Fire Hose. See, it says it, I'll show you on the waistband, Flex Fire Hose. These seem to do the best for us, Duluth Trading Company. They might not be super high prices. We've definitely sold pairs for more than $25, but these were a 40, and then actually the inseam was 28, not 30. So sizing makes a big difference too. You have to find, just the right person for this style. But we have found that the Flex Fire Hose and Duluth Trading are one of the pairs of pants that are worth picking up. Mephisto might be, I don't know if you've heard of that brand of shoe. I think back in the day, I remember when I was selling clothing and shoes years ago, it was definitely a brand we always wanted to find. And I think prices have come down a little bit. Now, obviously, like this pair is small. Here, this is a good picture of the logo right here. These were, not the most attractive shoes. They were only a size 6.5. And we had another pair of Mephistos that we sold pretty quickly a few weeks back. It might have been before I was doing the what sold videos, but maybe not. But we got an offer for $24, and so I just went ahead and took that. But it can be a good brand. Maybe possibly better in men's shoes than women's, if that's something you'd like to keep in mind. This was a down vest. I think I just picked it up at Goodwill one day, and it sold for $39. I got really good feedback. I don't know, it doesn't show, obviously, but because it's Poshmark, but she was just thrilled. She thought it was perfect. She liked how we packaged, and she just was super excited about her find. But yeah, definitely down vests and coats can actually do pretty well. Here's another brand that I don't know that much about. I think my husband had picked these up possibly for himself, and then he realized they were more like mountaineering boots. Yeah, excuse our typo there. We do know how to spell mountaineering. Anyway, a solo, and he just said they were heavy and clunky, not quite what he wanted, and they're actually a bigger size for him, but so he just decided to list them, and we got $100 offer, and we were happy to take that. Here's another brand I thought I would put on here for you guys to keep in mind. I don't find it a ton, but I've heard it mentioned from other YouTubers, and the brand is called Roan. And I'll show you the tag. So Roan and these like little X's. But these were just shorts, and they sold for $35. Lean forward to the next crazy adventure. And yeah, a lot of times, I think someone else I was watching this week mentioned that if they have some kind of saying, or clothing in general, if it has some kind of inspirational saying somewhere on it, it's probably worth checking the brand. It's just kind of a thing. But Anyway, $35 for a pair of shorts, I think, is pretty good, especially in January. Now, Skechers, these were in really good shape. I think these were on... I think I showed these in one of my hauls, but I don't think it was the shoe haul day, was it? I don't remember. But anyway, they sold for $40. I think I had them listed for $50 or $55 or maybe a little higher, but the person started off low and we kind of went back and forth a little bit, and then we finally got to $40, and I said, you know what, that's good enough. So these are golf shoes. They're Skechers, but they're Skechers Go Golf. And these are what is known as spikeless. So if you look at the bottom, they're not metal. There's not the metal cleats or the metal spikes that you see on a lot of golf shoes. And spikeless golf shoes can actually do pretty well. I think there's some golf courses that require you to wear spikeless golf shoes, and these still kind of had a tag. I don't know that they were even worn that much. So $40. I think I paid $10, possibly had a 20% coupon that day, but I can't remember. But it was $10 at the most. Here's another brand that was new to us. My husband picked this up at the thrift store because it was down. He took a look at it and looked up comps real quick in the store. If we look over here, here's the tag, Jack Wolfskin. And it looked like that the majority of the solds were like on eBay UK. So I don't know if it's just more common in the UK or Europe in general. We'd never heard of the brand before, but it sold for $90, and we were happy about that. Cinch, just sharing a kind of a bread and butter kind of brand. I thought I was showing you a Cinch shirt that sold, but maybe it didn't make it into the list. Anyway, Cinch is kind of a Western brand, and it doesn't have an overly Western look to it, but it's popular with riders and things like that. So there's a few different versions of Cinch. These, we use the term green label. It's right on the inside of the fly. And I think there's another one that's silver, and those actually sell a little bit better. So these were $25, but I think they sold fairly quickly, so that was fine. It's just kind of a bread and butter thing. I find button shirts kind of often, but very bread and butter, and I should probably get away from picking those up and focus on more profitable items. But because some of them can actually, the shirts can sometimes take a while. The jeans, I would probably be more inclined to pick those up. Titleist, this was a little visor, women's golf visor, pink with the pink ribbon for breast cancer. It was hilarious because my husband and I were sitting there and we were talking about hats, and he was talking about some of the hats that had sold recently, and he's like, the lesson is, if it's a hat that you don't think is going to sell, those are going to be the first ones that sell. And so I said, well, that's true, like in a lot of different niches or niches. You can, some things will be oversaturated, and so it takes longer for yours to sell. Whereas if you have something a little more obscure, you just don't know who's looking for that, and they'll probably buy it because you have the only one. So we've had some hats sell that were just these like random obscure events or whatever, and from 20 years ago. And he's like, yeah, but Titleist, he's like, Titleist isn't all it's cracked up to be. And I was like, yeah, well, Titleist is really oversaturated. Like, everybody picks up Titleist hats to try to sell them. And like, we've sold them, they're a little bit slower. As we were having that conversation, this sold. So I just thought it was funny because as we were talking, my phone went off and it was Poshmark, and it was like, hey, look what sold, honey. Anyway, I know our phones listen to us, but I don't know how they would push a sale like that. I'm just kidding. Okay, Peter Millar. This is less than the $25 that I was saying, but I just wanted to bring out that I've sold shorts, I sold a golf visor, another golf shirt. Like, it's probably not too early to be listing your spring and summer stuff. And I know that, but I'm still working on some sweaters. And so we've been just throwing, I mean, I'm still selling sweaters, but we're trying to throw some of the spring and summer stuff in there too, so that we're not racing behind when that comes along as well in, stronger force. Roper, another Western brand. These are not Western looking at all, but just more like work, kind of bum around town kind of shoes. They're leather. They sold for $35. I think I originally picked them up to see if my son wanted to wear them, and I don't know that they fit his foot very well. His foot's kind of high, and sometimes these shoes that are slip in, they need to open a lot more for his foot to fit in there. Okay, let's move on to eBay. Again, this is not everything that's sold on eBay. I had to pick and choose because some stuff was just stuff we were clearancing out. Same thing on Poshmark. I took, low offers on certain things, and some things were just, kind of low value things to begin with. This is a nice brand to know for shoes. It's Alakai, and they print the name of the style right on the inside of their shoe, which is perfect. And these were in pretty good shape. I think we did clean them up. I think they went through the dishwasher and cleaned up the whites on the sides a little bit, but I think they were in pretty good shape, and they might have just been dusty. Anywho, they sold for $55, and I was happy about that one. I don't think we didn't have any coupons going this week on eBay. I put all our hats on sale for a few days this week, but I think only one hat sold during that time, and then a hat sold like right afterwards. So, the sale was okay, but I think the coupon is more effective. I'll probably run one again soon, but we're also selling stuff at full asking price, so I'm not really worried about it. I thought I'd show you this. It didn't sell for $35. It sold for $18. It had been listed since last summer. I just wanted to show you something different other than clothing. Last summer I brought some of these home from an estate sale, and then we picked up some more on our trip. And so my husband did all the research and got those listed and stuff. And anyway, they're just really cool looking. Art Deco inkwells. The buyer is super happy. And let me show you, let's see, some other angles of it. Such an Art Deco look to it. It had the name, and it was custard glass. We did double check. Someone had asked us if it was uranium, like if it glowed on the black light, and it did not. But I just thought that was really cool. Such a cool look to it. Okay, this was a t-shirt. So we decided, so that's the front of the t-shirt. Just kind of boring like that. So our first picture was the graphic on the back. Boot Hill, so it's Bike Week, $19.99. And it sold for full asking price of $25. And then I did have some dealings with the customer afterwards because he messaged me saying, did I know why the package was refused and sent back to me? And I said, I don't know. Like, that's usually something that the customer does if they're not expecting a package. And I said, it's possible. I mean, I've heard stories of the postman can't deliver for some reason, and they just mark it, refused, returned to sender, just to kind of get it out of their hair, I guess. I don't know. So we went through a few different options back and forth, and so he decided to just go by. I said, if you go by your local post office, they probably still have it and they can get it for you. And that's exactly what happened. So we had opened an inquiry and everything on USPS, but we didn't need to. So he was super happy about that, but it just took a little bit to kind of talk him through it and say, I really have no idea, but I'll send it back to you when it comes. But fortunately, he got it. So I was happy about that. So the day we went out to storage to look in our profit pile, these were actually part of my collection. My husband and I have studied the Russian language for a long time, and we have a lot of friends from Russian-speaking countries. And so I would just kind of, whenever I saw the Kokloma folk painted type things at the at thrift stores, I just kind of would add them to my collection. So I think some of them still have labels that say USSR. Maybe not. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. But anyway, so he just, I said I don't really need them anymore, and we don't really have a place to display. So he just said, what, I'll just lot them up and we'll just try to move them out. We've got too much stuff. We need to get rid of our stuff. Anyway, $25. And they moved on. This one I thought was funny. It's just $25. It's a Boy Scout knapsack. And it had been, it was distressed, it was older. It was kind of cool because it had some writing on here that said what it was and everything on the back. Now, the only thing that was different, here you go, official camping equipment. In the front, the person had changed, like this snap or buckle. Look, my little zoomy thing's not working. Anyway, they had attached some hook and loop, aka Velcro, to keep it closed. You can see the stitching along there. And so it wasn't in original condition, so we priced it lower, but it sold really quickly. And the funny thing about it is that in our little bins store, our little clearance center, my husband had just grabbed this without looking at it just to put stuff in, and he just used it to carry some stuff home. And so then when we realized what it was, and I said, look, it's it's not original condition, he said, I'll just list it anyway. And it sold for $25. Not bad for something we picked up at the bins to hold our other stuff. This again was something that was in my personal collection. I thought, it's Dansk, all right, it's vintage, it's part of the Coben style line. It's like a little lasagna pan kind of thing. I had this one and a yellow one, and I never use them really because they're small, right? I don't know. Once I have a bigger family or teenage boys, then I tend to make bigger pans of things. And I just never ended up using this. And so we just said, let's just go ahead and list it. So we listed it for $40. Someone had tried offering us $20. And my husband, he has no attachment to this. So he was like, yeah, take it. And I was like, no. I was like, we need at least $30. Because I'll keep it, or I'll put it on Etsy where it's appreciated better or something like that, And so then someone came along and paid full price. So $40 I can live with. St. John's Bay, this didn't sell for $39.99. I think we took an offer for $30. So St. John's Bay is not a brand I would normally pick up, but this was new with tags, and it was a good size, extra large, and it was chamois cloth. And I looked at comps when I was in the store, and and those shirts were selling actually pretty well. And new with tags was definitely a no-brainer, so I'll take $30 any day for a shirt. Rafa, this I showed in one of my haul videos like early on, or actually I don't know. I don't do that many haul videos. I tend to not get as many views on them, and so I've just been kind of trying to play around with some other types of videos just to see what ends up being what people are looking for. The what sold videos are actually really popular for my little channel, but I did show this in one of my haul videos, my thrifting videos, and the brand is called Rafa, and it's a long sleeve wool polo. And I had known the brand from, here, let me get the up close for you. I knew the brand from seeing it at REI, and so you can see this is like the material content tag, and it was just a sticker on there, and the sticker hadn't been removed. So I had a feeling that it hadn't really been worn at all. So I had started it off at $80, and let me see. I know I didn't sell it for $80. It was on there, got a lot of attention. We took a $50 offer. So it's kind of like what I was saying. We don't have a tried and true like formula for what kind of offers that we'll take. This had like some attention, but nobody was really accepting any offers that we were sending out. And we're going to be coming out of wool polo shirt season. And this is actually a cycling brand. So on the back, there's like a back pocket. You can see there, kind of more of a cycling type thing. And so, you know, we're coming out of cycling in wool season. And so when we got the $50 offer, I said, you know what, let's just go ahead and take it. So yeah, sometimes going from 80 to 50 maybe seems like a big jump, but sometimes it's just you need cash flow for the week. And so we went ahead and took that $50 offer, but you know, I only paid like $5, so 5 into 50 is good for me. Next one, let's see, Roper, the brand I mentioned before with the shoes on Poshmark. We also sold this suede vest, and it just sold for $30. It wasn't anything crazy expensive, but I figured with, you know, the interest in Yellowstone and anything Western right now, that it's a good time to be listing things like that. And I am including this one even though I cannot believe I made such a mistake in this. So it did not sell for $64.99. I will tell you what it sold for, and maybe you can guess what I did. That was so crazy wrong. All right, hold on. It sold for $28.60. Now, comps are more in the $50 to $60 range. It sold for $28.60 because I was sending offers on my desktop. And on desktop, you have a choice between offering your offer as a dollar amount or as a percentage off. And so guess which one I did? I was trying to send out a $60 offer, and I sent out a 60% off offer, is what I think happened. If it wasn't exactly 60, it was 58 or something like that. And I could not believe I did that, because when someone accepted the offer, they were overseas. I was like, are you serious? And so, anyway, I was like, what in the world? How in the world did they offer me that? I did not send that offer, you know. I was so mad. And then I realized what happened. So when you're sending offers on desktop, make sure you double check that. At the very least, double check. It always shows you what the offer is you're sending compared to your asking price. And I usually look at both of them, but I must have been tired or something. and I still had it left on percentage, because sometimes I just go through and I'll do 20% offers without having to think too hard. I'll just set it for 20%, and the offers go out at 20% because I already have a 10% coupon running, so I have to send an offer that's better than that. But since I didn't have the coupon running, I was just kind of sending random dollar amount offers, and I didn't double check. So I paid $6 for those. I sold them for $28.60. I still made a profit, and I possibly profited a few more dollars on the international shipping. So I just, I really haven't given it much thought. These things happen. You just got to move on. Learn from your mistakes. Try to slow down and do things more carefully. Oh well. Okay, I have found this particular jacket like 3 times now, once or twice at estate sales, at yard sales, I think. And this one was at a thrift store. I recognized it right away. It's a shell. It's okay, so it's military, but let's look if I got a better picture of the tag. So it's in a parka, extreme cold weather parka. Now there's normally a liner, but every time I have found it, it's only just the shell, and that still sells really well. It's called a fishtail. Let me see. It's called a fishtail parka. The back is a little bit longer than the front, and it has this like split in that bottom hem, and so that kind of gives it that fishtail shape and designation. Anyway, these always go overseas to usually Japan, and they go through like a shipping forwarder. So it didn't sell for $149, but it did sell for $100, and that's about, I sold one other at $100 and one other at like $120. So I just decided to start at $150, see what offers I got, and I sold it for $100 within a couple days. So I was happy with that. Okay, Vuori is a good brand. I have heard some people having difficulty selling it on eBay. Maybe they're using stock photos or something like that. I've talked to other resellers who have had no problem with it at all, so I didn't worry about it too much. This was an older style, so it took a little bit longer to sell, but they're just wide leg flared pants. It's like a workout athleisure kind of company, and those sold for $25, actually, not the $40. Like I said, it was an older style, so I know that affected how fast it sold and how much it sold for. Next one, Patagonia. I got this at a thrift store. It was half off day, so I did kind of pay up a little. They were asking $24 just because it was Patagonia. Patagucci. And I got it for like $12.50, and it was so pilly. I mean, I think these are kind of prone to do that, but what's nice about Patagonia is the pills come right off, and it looked actually really good by the time it was done, so that sold for my full asking price of $40. Keens, I picked these up. These were technically my size, possibly a little too small. My foot is somewhere between like 6.5 and 7. Usually most likely 7 at this point, but I picked these up knowing that if I didn't end up using them, I could sell them. And I got them, and they ended up like in the selling bin like right away. So I don't know what happened. I don't think they're waterproof. They're kind of more like a winter hiking boot, and I just don't do that right now. So I maybe thought I would, but there's too much snow here, so I think I'd have to wear like bigger boots if I was gonna go tromp around. But I've got so many boots and different things that we just decided to sell these, and so they sold for $60. Cornell University, this hat sold for $25. It was possibly the one that sold in the sale, so That would have been like 10% or 20% off. Don't remember if it was this one, but Cornell, anyway, made me think of Andy from The Office. And anyway, I don't know. We picked it up probably at the Little Bins shop. The little clearance outlet center. So we hardly paid anything for it. So, maybe we sold it for $20 or it was the full 25. Let me see. I don't know if my other thing just says 25. So this might have been before my sale was started. So not a bad price for kind of a basic baseball cap. These bowls were stinking cute. So they were by Williams-Sonoma, and they were a honeycomb shape, like design, and then the bees on it were raised. And they were kind of deep, like soup or cereal bowls. And so I had it set up for $17.99 per bowl plus shipping, but then like 10% off for each bowl that you bought afterwards. So someone came along and bought all 6 bowls that I had, and she paid about $108 for all 6 bowls. So that's kind of where divvying things up into singles can net you a little bit more profit. We talk about that in flatware a little bit. And if I had listed these as a group of 6, I don't think I would have asked $108. I would have asked probably less. And so, but a person just went ahead and bought them all. And then she paid the shipping. The shipping actually turned out pretty accurate. I don't think I refunded anything because it was calculated, and because then the box had to get a little bit bigger. That's one thing to know about eBay, though, that if you do this, it only calculated, it increased the weight based on what I had it listed at, but it kept the box size the same. So that could get you into trouble because I had put in a box size for the size for one bowl, but by the time you have 6 bowls, your box is way big. And as we know, boxes will get, oversized shipping charges the bigger they get. So fortunately, it all worked out, and the box was just the right size so that the shipping that she paid actually covered it pretty well. And it worked out good. This has been listed actually a little while. It's a jersey for the San Jose Sharks. It was from 1991, so it was vintage, and I think my husband started at an even higher price. He couldn't really find one like it, and we actually took an offer for $50 on that one. It kind of came out of nowhere. I was happy to see that move on. Speaking of flatware, I talked about these flatware pieces in my last flatware video about identifying the pattern. And this pattern was really hard to find. I ended up finding it on Google, and I found out that it was a pattern the brand is Robert Welch, which is a brand I do normally pick up. It's not mentioned in my other flatware brand thing because you don't come across it crazy often, but when I find it, I usually pick it up. But the pattern was hard to find. I could find a very similar one that was not satin. It was glossy, and I just could not find the name to it. I was trying to decide what to do. I just found these at the thrift store last week, and anyway, so I found out they sold these at Crate and Barrel, and I found the name of the pattern, which was Cessna, or however you say that. And I only had 11 pieces. I didn't have any teaspoons, so you couldn't really make even a place setting. And the only other comps were for a bigger set that sold for like $40, and that had teaspoons and soup spoons and things like that. And so I figured $30 for kind of these mixed odds and ends of pieces. And I think I paid, I'm going to say, less than $3 for these, and sold them for $30. And they went quick quickly for such an obscure kind of, there we go again with the obscure pattern. I was the only one with any listed, I believe, and they sold within a few days. Again, some things were cleaning out the garage. Yes, these could probably be listed individually, or at least, you know, in like each metal case could be listed separately, but we just didn't have time for that. They've been banging around for a while. We tried listing them before and they hadn't sold, so we took an offer for $30 and they actually sold pretty quickly. Ryan Michael, another bolo name to look out for in Western shirts. That's what it looks like. Ryan Michael. This was just a kind of it was like taupe and everything. It was nice. It did have some silk in it. And it had this interesting kind of like whip stitch detail along it. So it didn't sell for $65. But there are other more colorful ones that do sell in that range. We took an offer for $48 on this, and it went overseas to the UK, I believe. But Ryan Michael is definitely a Western shirt brand to keep an eye out for. So lots of new brands these last couple of weeks, new to us, things that we sold. This pair of jeans is Levi's. I only mentioned them. We sold them for $40. We don't sell a ton of Levi's jeans, but what was interesting about these, they were made in the USA, so I usually pay attention to the vintage denim. And then on the back, let's see, I don't know if we have a good up-close picture. I guess this one's the best. It was orange tab is what you say. So orange tabs were only for a certain period of time. Oh, I'm not good at details, but, 70s, 80s, I think there were more orange tabs. So if you see the orange tab, that's kind of usually an indication it's a vintage pair of jeans for sure. And then you can double check the inside that it says made in the USA. And those sold for $40, which I think is always a good price for selling pants or jeans. 40 and higher. Ken Edwards, just wanted to show this little one. It's only $20, but it was just a tiny, less than 7-inch plate, like a bread and butter plate. And I featured these plates in a video I made about Ken Edwards, and it's Mexican pottery. And I had found quite a few pieces of that. So this was the latest piece that had sold. This little plate sold for $20 plus shipping. Mizuno's, don't know much about this. My husband must have picked these up at some point. We were, again, going through our stuff that's kind of been sitting too long. And so he got those listed. And it was actually really, really quickly. We got like a $37 offer. And he was like, I just listed them. I don't know if I want to take an offer. But then we were like, you know what, just move stuff, right? And I had to go back and forth. The buyer's actually in South America. He was using a shipper for me to ship to Florida. And for some reason, he thought the shipping was wrong. And then I checked and it was right. It just was super high because I live in Montana and Miami is really far away. And the shoes were big. They're over 3 pounds, over 2 pounds. And so the shipping was correct. And I said, I really can't change anything on the shipping. So anyway, he finally just said, okay, because he thought he had seen $8 shipping and it was $18. And I really think he just didn't see it correctly because there was nothing on it that would have made it $8, not from here to Miami. But we moved something quickly. Here's another new bolo brand, Stormy Cromer. And they do sell this brand at REI. I saw that one of the last times I was there. But I picked this up on our road trip coming back from the East Coast. And it's just a denim shirt. It's got like reinforced sleeves. Sorry. And it sold for $50, like within a couple days. So I do have another Stormy Cromer shirt I picked up. I picked it up before this one sold, just kind of on faith that I had seen the comps correctly. And so somewhere around here, I think in one of my piles, I have a flannel shirt by Stormy Cromer. And so we do need to get that. Actually, I think I found the flannel one first. Maybe. I don't know. Anyway, I'm glad to see my research did not fail me. This vase is very interesting looking. I picked it up at a yard sale this summer for like $1. It was a place, all this glassware this lady had just collected or just had gone crazy. Maybe she was going to have a glass shop or a vintage shop somewhere, and they were just trying to help her sell it. And I dug this out of a box. It was still wrapped up. I wasn't sure exactly what I have because I know zip-diddy-doo-dah about glass. But I checked in a couple groups I'm in on Facebook, and I double-checked whether it was Murano, made in Murano, Italy. And it was not. So they actually directed me to the Murano group. And so Facebook group, and they said that it was most likely Fifth Avenue Crystal, which they still liked it. It was still really nice. It just wasn't the big money vase that it possibly could have if it was actually made in Italy. But that didn't sell for $40. Let me see. I think I took an offer for $30 because it had been listed a while and I just wanted it to move on. This is just not, of course, it's one of the lowest items I'm showing you today, but it's just one of my fun types of things that I like to sell. So this little soap holder called Little Octopus, and it was still in its original packaging. I had picked it up at a yard sale, estate sale type thing, where things were like 10 cents. And so it was like the woman had just collected 5 and dime type stuff. There was so much of that kind of thing, and things were just like 10 cents. And so I grabbed that one because I like the packaging, and it sold for $15. Prana, these were red. I like the color of these. Prana is like an outdoor brand, and these sold for $50. We took an offer on those. And so we were discussing some of the brands again, like we were discussing the hats. And my husband and I texted him and I said, you know what? I said, I think Prana pants is the way to go, because we've listed some Prana shirts and some sell and some don't. But Prana pants and shorts have always sold for us. So these sold for $50, most likely because of the color. It's just a little bit more unusual. We found some Hokas. I think these had been sitting around a little bit, just needing to get cleaned up, but we got them cleaned, and we sold them for $50. And next, so Prana, again, so we had this pair, we had the red pair, and then I think a green pair might have sold in the last, was either in the last one or I don't know, maybe I missed sharing it with you. Maybe you remember it. I don't know. But these sold for $36.50. Some kind of offer one way or the other was for that. But anyway, these Prana pants had all been listed in, the last couple of weeks, and they all sold. So 3 pairs. So again, it was another, I told my husband, okay, Prana pants, especially men's, that's where it's at. And then my last one, I think that is my last one. The last one is just my eBay store. So anyway, thank you guys so much. I'm sure this was a super long video. My voice is giving out, but thank you so much for staying with me on this. Please feel free, if this is your first time with me, go ahead and check out some of the other videos, like I said, about flatware, and you can see some of the money that's involved with selling flatware. And I had some videos about Ruby Lane as an optional marketplace if you like to sell vintage. And then go ahead and hit the subscribe button. I've done what sold videos generally every week. On Tuesdays is when they come out. I did miss last week, so that's why this one was a little bit longer and it was doubled up. But anyway, so hope you guys are having a really good week. Hope your sales are doing well. Feel free to leave me a comment down below. Let me know what your best sale was in the last couple weeks, something you were super excited about. And I will see you later on this week.